Okay. Mr. Chairman, it's now 7 o'clock. The recording has started, and your microphones are live.
Thanks, Jim. I will call to order the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board special called meeting of Wednesday, September 27th. Roll call. Sean Michael.
Present.
Jason.
Present.
David. Here. Attaboy. Phil.
Present.
And myself. In absence, Joey and Ron. Okay, the next order is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In front of everyone, we have the meeting agenda for today's meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Before the motion is made, I would like to point out I have made an error here in the heading. It is the meeting's at 7 o'clock on Thursday, September 27th, not Wednesday, September 27th.
Thank you. That's okay. If there are no other changes to the agenda for today's meeting, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended for Thursday.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Mr. Shannon.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Alberici. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next item, item number 4, approval of the minutes of the September 5th, 2018 meeting. That was a rather productive discussion at that meeting, and minutes captured in front of you. If there's no comments on the minute, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 5th.
A motion by Phil, second.
I'll second that.
By David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 5 for tonight's meeting, public comment. Jim.
Mr. Chairman, there are no public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 6, committee reports. We'll go through these in case anything's changed from last meeting. Start with David.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Ron's not here. We'll come back and I'll see if Jim's got anything to say. Eagle Sticks. Joey, anything, or Jason, anything you want to share on?
Nope, season's off to, they're kind of in full swing, so things are going well.
Jim, anything you want to add to committee reports about football and or baseball or?
I have nothing to add at this time.
Okay.
All programs are operating.
Mm-hmm. Pardon me?
All programs are operating now.
Awesome. Great. So, item number 7, unfinished business, is a whole basket of things that we talked through last week. The MOU, Parks Department's goals, capacity planning, and the commission structure. And we had a spirited discussion, and some of it captured in the minutes from last month. And what I'd like to try and do today is ask one question, get some discussion, and then try and formulate some moving forward recommendations for council, knowing that out of this meeting today, we're going to go to the council in November for a joint session to discuss in some more detail with them. But one question that continues to come up is a hypothetical question. We go to the city of Alpharetta to negotiate, and they essentially tell us no negotiations. Are we ready, willing, able to walk away from the MOU? And it's an absolute entirety. So I'm just throw that out for a little discussion because that's certainly one thing that I would expect council would ask us. So,
yeah. So I'll just reiterate what I said during the last meeting. I think there's a number of options that we can present, and we can even prioritize that if the board so chooses to. But in my opinion, an acceptable outcome is the going away of the MOU as we know it today. So through rounds of negotiations, if we can't find common ground based on what we think is fair and reasonable, eliminating the MOU as we know it, to me, is an acceptable outcome.
So,
Yeah, that brings up what is fair and what stays and what goes.
so
What
so
programs?
eliminating, take that a step further, Phil, or anybody jump in, right? So does that mean that we would not sponsor out-of-city registrations for any programming in cross-city lines? Or would we just, are you saying the MOU is agreement today between the cities would go away and we'd come up with another plan for taking care of the?
Yeah, so between the two cities, if that MOU were to go away, it's not to say that we couldn't do anything on the back end
Right.
for our residents as we see necessary, but fully administered by Milton
Right.
with no involvement from the city of Alpharetta.
Correct. I'm with you on that. Other thoughts, comments? Anybody's had any other discussions? There's a phrase that's been used like, rather than, why not just rip the whole scab off, right? Instead of fighting through what we've got. That's certainly one option, is to abandon the MOU in its current form
And I just preface
Fill
that
it
with,
with-
I think there are multiple options that we can present
Right.
and offer and hopefully negotiate.
Yep.
Something that is fair and reasonable for both parties.
Yep.
But again, my point is if at the end of that, we can't find common ground, an acceptable outcome is dissolving the MOU as we know it.
And I would agree with that 100%. From my opinion is that I think that we should make the best effort to, and we can give some guidance to say, hey, here are fair and equitable things that would be beneficial to both us and them.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the end of the day, if the answer from them is we don't want to do it, then we should be comfortable enough to say we're okay to walk away and figure out on our own side for our citizens.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I'm comfortable with that. I think we're going to get asked that question, so that's why I make sure that we touch on it. So now let's try and drill through some of the ups and downs of what we would propose for changes to the MOU. It's kind of my thought process for it. And then
Mr. Chairman?
if we can identify some savings along the way, that'll give us kind of a.
Just for clarity,
Yeah.
is everyone else on board, does anyone else want to provide a position just so we can remain aligned through this process? Because this is going to be a really good discussion, but it's going to be helpful to know where we all stand so we can appreciate and understand each other's point of view as we get into the details and what our recommendations are. It'll just be helpful to establish that baseline of where everyone is on the topic.
Speaking for myself, I think we have to look at the programs that are held in Providence Park. The girls softball program. North Park.
North Park.
Because it's essentially in the city of Milton. Other than that, I'm ready to scrap everything else. Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only one that comes to the top. I mean, is there anything that you could think of, Jim, that would cause a problem, that you would see immediately phone calls from residents? And that would be
Certainly, as we know, based on some data here presented in this one particular document, that there's a number of programs that were being used by residents, and so those residents would may wind up making a concern. I understand what you're saying in that North Park, the program at North Park, is North Park's physically inside the city of Milton. The programming that exists there, the senior center activities, the adult softball, the girls softball, football is a program that we compete with through the Milton Steelers, and that's pretty much the activities there. They do have some soccer there overflowing from Webbridge. So I don't know if you'd want to talk about soccer, but that's not a program that we offer. But the home base for soccer
okay.
is at
So
Webbridge.
we can essentially, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but can we include the senior center and girls and adult softball? start there possibly, or at least have something and want to try to save. But other than that, I think the program itself, the MOU, was just essentially a temporary until we started building things. And we're going to need to save that money to buy more land.
So let's start with, so Jim, you gave us some numbers. So let's just start with the current price tag of the MOUs. We'll start there. That number 461, 660, is that the?
Yes, that was the fiscal year 17.
Yep.
I will let you know that Tom has done a marvelous job putting together all of the data for FY18. And I want to give it one more quality proof before we send it over to Alpharetta.
Right.
I have been in touch with my counterpart in Alpharetta. They are working on putting their data level together. We have both agreed that, unlike last year, we will just preemptively send each other registration data that it will consist of the name and street address of the participant. We are not giving out phone numbers or emails information. It's simply for residency verification purpose data. We have edited that data.
Yep.
So Tom's done it. I'm going through it, and then we're going to go through it together one more time to make sure we've got it right before we send it over.
Good. So
but I can tell you this: the numbers of out-of-city fees that the city of Milton did not collect is essentially the same as last year.
Even with the growth.
Our numbers somewhere around the high 20s, 27, 28, 29.
Gotcha.
We're finalizing that right now.
Gotcha. Just to be thorough, Jason or Sean Michael, before we go in and grind into some details, thoughts about the MOU in general? Just I know it's not quite fair, Sean Michael, to put you on the spot in your second meeting, but welcome to the Parks and Rec Board.
No, I mean, I'm pretty much in agreement with everybody. I think that if, they're not willing to negotiate, some of our items that we bring up, then yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with, scrapping the whole thing if that's what it comes to.
Right.
But I think there are options that are out there that we can at least bring to the table for them to consider that would be fair for everybody.
Okay. Jason, any comments?
Yeah, maybe we'll be surprised in that they'll open up to this idea of this, Parks Without Borders kind of thing where there's more of a, a commingling between the two groups. For the benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
But if that's I think anywhere from, obviously the more that we can do for our citizens and make it where we're saving money and being responsible for our community makes sense.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if they say, hey, it's all or nothing, I'm certainly fine with nothing.
So let's try, I'm going to throw a couple thoughts out. Big block stuff, and then we can come back to it. So I heard a couple of people mention protecting seniors, right? So we certainly want, in the agreement, to keep the seniors busy at the Alpharetta Senior Center, and we've sort of agreed on a fee that's associated with that in previous years, and we call that a non-starter. That's, if we're going to have an MOU and they got a center and we got seniors, what were the numbers? I think something like 37% of the people are Milton residents are particularly in the program. So,
Mr. Chairman, it's officially known as the Adult Activity Center.
Adult Activity Center.
The Golden Age Club several years ago made the effort to get the name changed from the Senior Center to the Adult Activity Center.
Thank you for correcting me.
And so I just have one question, and Jim, you may have an answer to this. I may have seen this somewhere. That the fee that we pay that a Milton resident pays does not apply to folks from other counties or other cities. So if I came in from Cherokee as a senior or and went to the adult activity center and went there would be no up fee for those folks that's either as an out of Alpharetta resident?
It has been over 6.5 years since I've served on Alphareta's Parks and Recreation Board, so I can't speak on where they're at now. But at the time, they did not charge seniors out of the city.
And so I think that's an important thing that we would want to explore just from a negotiation standpoint. Why? Again, I think we need to protect it, and if that's something they want to hold on to, but if we're the only people being charged an out of Alpharetta fee, it seems that that's kind of taking advantage of us and the fact that we're paying for it, meaning the city's paying for it.
Well, I believe for trips and things that you register for, you still pay the out of city fee, but
Okay.
anybody can enter and go play cards or bingo and stuff like
And,
that. But trips and everything that are out of that center,
Right.
you are charged a non-resident fee.
Got it. Okay.
If you're
so as long,
in Cherokee
as long
County
as
or
it's-
whatever.
I mean, again, I don't.
But we're paying a flat fee of $55,000, are we not?
Yes, we are, and that works out very advantageously for the city of Milton because there's a significant disparity between the number of Alpharetta seniors, Alpharetta active adults, and Milton active adults.
Right.
It is something like I think Milton active adults are 4-to-1.
Yep.
Over.
Okay. That's fine. Then
So-
that's good.
So one thing would be
That might not be a stone we want to kick.
right.
Correct.
So
100%.
so if we were starting over, we'd say, we're willing $55,000. We'll pay to City Alpharetta. We'll keep the Adult Activity Center funded together and make our contribution there. So I think that's a safe starting spot. The other thing we spent a lot of time talking about, both all the way back to, last month's meetings before, is this idea of filling our existing parks, which was the idea of removing from the MOU the co-offered programs so that we would not make it easy for someone to leave the city of Milton to go to a sport that's offered in the city of Milton. And in doing so, I think it's a big start towards keeping our parks full in all those respective programs. And we had a list. I think the last time we met, there were 7 of them, and we probably added a few. Let me just find my list from last time.
A lot of paper at these meetings.
So the matched programs, baseball, football, basketball, boys lacrosse, swim team, swimming, and tennis were the 7 matched programs, right? So I would propose that if we were renegotiating the MOU, that we would take the match programs out of the MOU so that we could go through each of these programs. If you want to be a football player and play in NFL, that's your choice. We have a football provider. If you want to play baseball at Alpharetta Baseball, we have a baseball provider, and so on and so forth. And those programs are existing and established, right? People today, so there is some consequence to taking them out. There can be some families that we could go and look. There's going to be some families that get an out-of-city fee, depending on where they choose to recreate in those 7 sports. Jim, you did the math. That's in this one sheet. The 7 programs, if they came out,
Yes. It's
without
not-
which is straight up without the multiplier in it.
Actually, if you, it's the document that has 3 pages to it.
Yep.
And what I've done here is I physically took out the Milton participants in where there was competition, competing programs.
Right.
And on the very last page, you see 3 boxes. One is the color code legend, which doesn't really matter generic to the conversation. There's the actual settlement, and then if we did a hypothetical, we took it out, still leaving in place the 1.5 multiplier, the difference that it would make. So it would have been a savings of, in fiscal year 17, of nearly $80,000.
$80,000.
Yeah, a little over 80,000. I think it was about 83.
Yeah. So it's 83, and that's with the multiplier.
That's with the multiplier.
With the 1.5, correct. So there's one place. The other thing, then, and going down that same thought process, and it goes back to our conversation last month where we were talking about what should we offer, most of the things that we should offer that are currently additional shared programs revolve around pool, right? Lifeguard certification, open swim.
Yep.
We wouldn't have to sponsor or support or subsidize that in Alpharetta anymore because we'd have a pool. So there's a hodgepodge of smaller programs like swimming pool, like babysitter class that is currently offered in Alpharetta that we subsidized, cheerleading camp that is in this bucket. And then there was something else called, I guess, boys and girls winter basketball that would we have a home for that if we brought that in?
We have halftime,
We have.
right?
It's listed on your sheet here, Jim, where you did that hypothetical. There's a basketball boys and girls winter.
Okay.
And I couldn't remember how many people that was.
Our basketball program this past year was 331 kids in our winter basketball program.
In the Milton basketball. So I was
In the
trying to
Milton
identify.
basketball program.
So
And do we know how many were in the Alpharetta one
Basketball,
in
boys,
addition?
girls,
So
360.
I think that was probably, I think the conversation
We-
was, would we be able to handle the influx with what we have?
I could go print that document out. It would only take me a couple moments. But there's no question that in any of these programs, if all these people come back en masse, we will be challenged.
Right.
But that's kind of the, it is highly unlikely that everyone would suddenly say, well, because of the out-of-city fee no longer being waived, I think it's unlikely that everyone would come back to Milton because there are people who are happy with the experience they're having over there.
Right.
And they will pay more. But, as we have discussed in previous meetings, it will stretch our abilities to provide services for all these programs. But then the other side of the coin we discussed is that getting that money back into the pocket allows us to build facilities so we can ultimately catch up and start to build some of the facilities that are needed. So short term, it'll be a challenge, but we're trying to build the greater good of being self-sufficient in terms of our parks and recreation services and programs that we as a group, with your advice, the whole purpose here is what should we be offering? Which led that whole discussion of what do we want to be when we grow up?
Right. So part of it is what can we do now with the facilities we have now? Part of it's a little further out where we build some. So let's take just to help me if my math is right, Jim. So if we were to start with swim pool and say we would no longer support that in the city of Alpharetta, conceivably all those people may choose to come to the city of Milton. And in doing so, that line item for swim pool all becomes a savings that we're not paying on the
Right.
out of city.
Right.
So if I read that right in your spreadsheet, and you can help me.
Would it help if I go get that the actual one instead of the hypothetical one? It would only take me a few moments.
Yeah, I think so. That way we can see
Okay.
from a dollar.
Yeah,
All right. Perhaps you can continue, and I shall return.
yeah, I'll come back to that one then.
Okay.
I think I got where we're headed from last month's discussion. So we'll come back, we'll fill in these pieces around the match programs. So the 7 programs. So then we're now into, how do I want to describe these? These are really new programs with existing facilities, mainly pool and gyms. And we'll get those numbers from Jim. So what I'm trying to do is kind of build a running total of what does it look like if the MOU was. Let's have a fun discussion around commission fees, Phil, because that was right where you
so
were.
Before we. I
Yeah,
guess,
sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
So I think the first, our first position is that the multiplier has to go.
Yeah, we're gonna get there.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that can't be,
Yeah.
it's $135,000 that,
Correct.
I mean, and to some extent, it may be, we could just say, hey, get rid of the multiplier and we could stay in the existing agreement,
Correct.
right? Would be a suitable outcome for us, to keep the multiplier and get rid of the existing or competing sports, I mean, it's $80,000 as opposed to 135, right?
Correct.
Like, we'd be better off. Right. Let them have the existing sports, and so that's got to be our first. If you're not willing to get rid of that, we're not willing to talk. We may as well end the whole thing now.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yep. We're making this list kind of backwards, but that's
Yeah.
really priority number one. They gotta
Like-
agree to move on that.
that's
So
I would agree. Because all of a sudden you're into over $200,000 a year, which all of a sudden hits a nice number for creating savings towards towards new facilities.
Yes.
Right? Because the last item in this recommendation to council, I think, is all savings or all new monies have to be directed towards a project that's a capital project, towards expanding fields.
Correct.
Because that's where we've identified from our capacity planning discussions where we have weaknesses and will be stretched if all this goes the way it's supposed to go. So I'm good with that. I didn't want to lead with it, but I knew it was coming, so thanks. When we closed last month's meeting without voting, Phil, you were bringing up the idea of commission fees, and I've given it a whole bunch of thought since then, and Sean Michael had a wonderful suggestion about maybe this idea. And the more I thought about just making a recommendation, throw them all out the window. Alpharetta doesn't charge any commission fees to their participants. So why are we charging ours?
Say that again, Alpharetta.
Alpharetta does not charge Alpharetta residents a commission fee to participate in programs in their city. So if we're going to be a grown-up city, we've already paid into our parks that we're expanding. We wouldn't charge commission fees. Mm-hmm. At the end of the year, it's a modest amount of money on the parks budget and to the city. It's $67,000 we're talking about. Yeah. By not collecting it, it's 67 less than we could put in the fields bucket that we might want to revisit. But at the same time, it might make things nice to show Alpharetta that, everybody's paying into parks. Every resident pays into parks. Every taxpayer pays into parks, and we're good, and we're not going down a path of user fees, commission fees, whatever you want to call them. So I'm kind of the mindset to just eat one, take that one right away.
I would support that.
I would support it just based on the one side that we need to make sure that it is reflected with our partners.
Yeah, because there's a couple of partners that over time, over the last couple of years, commission fees have become an obstacle. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
When registrations went to zero, that was an obstacle. And now that we have a tennis program with low registration, absolute amounts, commission fees are low.
Yeah, but in theory,
I'm fine with killing it.
So I am absolutely too. It's just in theory, the two lacrosse programs and the basketball, which have some sort of profit. Or somebody's paying.
That's what I was about to ask.
Right.
Are we talking associations or
they're like not
for-profit companies? Because for instance, basketball, we have to pay to rent the gyms. Are we looking to eat all those costs too?
That's a good point.
Yeah, because that's the other question that comes is that if it's, for basketball, if we waive that fee and he does not reduce his fees, then it doesn't benefit our residents, and he just made more money, right? So he just picked up an extra 30.
Now, in their defense, it costs money to upkeep Bell Park too. So,
Yeah.
Correct.
For those other programs.
So we could go down that. Let's go down that path then real quick, Tom. I'm going to make a broad assumption that big fields, baseball, artificial turf, that yes, there are costs, but we're nowhere near hourly rates for gyms kind of stuff. So now we're into on the remaining list, we're into swim team, which is our own facility, swimming, of course, tennis, of course. So we're left with basketball in rented facilities. Is that where we're focused? Mm-hmm. So then if commission fees were to be removed from the city, then the message to the basketball provider would be you need to see a 15% reduction in your fee? Is that what we're saying? Because you guys are still renting the gym? Is that how that? The city's still paying to rent the gym, or is he paying to rent the gym?
We do.
You do, for him.
So I think what Tom's is that
It was just a question.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
so
it's a good
there's
question.
money there, as opposed to a Bell where we own it and it's being written off.
It
through our-
would be maintained at that cost, whether.
Yeah.
Which is an issue we got to address in year one, right? Because it's not like that notion goes away. I mean, they could pass the fee on that we recognize today as revenue for the city. They could just up their fee by that much and pass that on to the Milton, right? So it's no different than taking it away. We just got to reestablish what their baseline is.
Correct.
For this first go around, and they have the prerogative to make the fee whatever they want from that point forward. I think it's prudent, though, for staff to set the expectation that if we eliminate our
15%.
commission fees, there should be a 15% reduction
Yeah.
as a result of that. That should be passed on to the participants.
And, you know, we could be setting up a perfect storm for them in the sense that if we reduce that fee, which again, I'm not, still need to get my head around that, but not opposed to it, right? Reduce
Well, no, it'd be the same.
commission
But
fee.
you could make the arguments the same for everybody then.
But what you could also, yeah, but so you reduce that commission fee, and then you also get rid, if the, you know, MOU with Alpharetta goes away, you're flooding people in there. If they're smart, they price themselves, if I'm a business person, I price myself right under the out of resident fee for Alpharetta, and I just make a whole boatload of money into my program coffers, right, for whatever.
Well, I think that
Because
goes
you're-
to Phil's point where you set the baseline
Yeah.
for at least the first year, and if they want to jump the next year,
And then
people can make that decision and say, I don't.
And there could be some, you know, for lack of a better term, rent control put on it, saying that, hey, if you're going to increase your fees by
But that's
X,
in there already.
X
That's in
amount.
the agreement already.
Okay, it is.
Price changes price changes were always anticipated to be an increase, and that was one of the problems. Is one provider decreased their
Yes.
fees without prior notice, but price changes are in the provider agreement. So
And I believe the pricing has to be approved by the city
Okay.
anyway.
So as long
And
as
so-
there is an option.
Yeah, we've never, I don't think I've ever said
Thank you.
no when someone comes to raise
Yeah,
the
but
price.
but I guess you could see where that could be.
Just in case someone had said, hey, I'm going to be charging,
No, so
instead of
you-
100, I'm going to be charging 400, we could say no.
So I think that so to make it to make sure I've got this right, so it wouldn't be just a basketball issue, because if you took away commission fee structure as it existed at 15%, you would expect everybody to have a 15%
Correct.
decrease across the board
Correct.
from their current price.
Yep.
Or you would tell them that. Jim, you can commission us with your wisdom. We jumped to commission fees and discussed the idea of waiving them.
Okay.
Like a big city, that we wouldn't charge commission fees to our participants. And Tom so aptly reminded us that some fields, some facilities like basketball, we pay for different
Yes.
than fields that we own.
Yes.
But it was kind of the mindset as you walked in that we would, if we were to remove commission fees in our recommendation going forward, that we would essentially tell all providers that they could reduce their fees by 15%. Because it would be baked out instead of baked in.
We certainly could request that. We can't command them. We don't have that level of control on it. I would like to point out that in a very direct sense, when we rent gymnasiums for basketball, yes, we pay rental fees. And so on the facilities we own, we don't pay rental fee, but we do pay maintenance. So while the rental fees as a number seem, oh my gosh, they look high, we had $11,000 for basketball, the reality is we're paying more for the maintenance of Bell Park and the other parks we have here. So I wouldn't get too concerned about the issue of, well, we're paying rental for basketball, but we're not for lacrosse.
Soccer, football,
Right.
baseball.
So we'll go back to the question. We're okay with removing commission fees in their entirety then? That would be because it's at the end of the day, it's a small fee to the parks budget, to the city's parks budget.
Are you talking about recommending the removal of the commission fee or the out-of-city fee.
And we're starting with a commission fee.
Okay.
Because the out-of-city fee, I think, is going to be,
The out-of-city fee is intended to compensate for the fact that a person is not paying taxes to the city of
right,
Milton.
right.
Okay.
Now we're talking about just the commission fee.
Okay.
Not make a resident pay a fee to participate in a facility, park or otherwise, that they're already
Paying taxes.
paying
for.
taxes on. The out-of-city thing is the whole basis of the MOU and some crazy math. And as Jason reminded us, it probably is the first item, removing the multiplier would be the number one issue in the steps that we're going through. But I think the idea of commission fees, Alpharetta doesn't charge it to their people, so it's kind of what big parks, big cities do.
Yes, but also keep in mind, the city of Milton does operate with a capped millage rate.
Right.
That requires a majority vote of all people voting on an appropriate election day, whereas in Alpharetta, their millage rate is uncapped, and the tax rate can be set by a vote of 4 people. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The capped millage rate is an issue to consider. Also, the basis of commercial revenue, property tax revenue income versus residential is substantially different, Milton versus Alpharetta. So, while Alpharetta does this, and I'm not trying to recommend that you guys do or do not. I just
Right.
want you to be aware of factors
Yep.
that would be considered by your elected officials as you make this recommendation, whatever your recommendation may be.
So my question is that, I know that it's not a huge number. I mean, what's the real impact, right? I mean, is it just the $67,000 or $70,000, if that was to go away, right? Would there be an impact to it from the city perspective, right?
We probably couldn't afford to keep you on the Parks Board.
$50 a month, we're going to
So-
break you.
My wife just called in and voted.
Yeah. So let's, I appreciate this, Jim. Let's go back to, well, no, let me finish this and we'll come back to the dollars. So then the last question, and this is really, as I was thinking about this, Jim, this really comes down to how the two staff departments work together. So let's assume we have 5 or 6 recommendations in the MOU, and as we're going to go into like the swimming pool, we're going to say we'll offer swim now, so we can take it out of the old agreement. One of the troublesome spots of the current MOU is the fact that they can just keep rolling things on without any checkpoint, without any toll booth, without us agreeing that we're willing to pay for our residents to go to that. So when we went back to that list of what we should never offer, Alpharetta could choose to offer it, and we never will. And all of a sudden, more of our residents go to some program in their city which we never envisioned, and they're putting us on the hook without our awareness until we're well into the agreement. So one of the challenges is to figure out a way as assuming we get through a renegotiation, assuming we have a new agreement, is how do we put a wall around it? So this is the programs that this long list of programs, these are the ones that we're agreeing are in the MOU going into 2018, not anything else you create.
Yeah, and I think
And how I don't know how that works out between
well, I think
the
that
staffs.
becomes a right of refusal. We're not willing to pay for anything without prior approval, right? So if they're adding something new, they would have to come to Jim and say, hey, what are your thoughts? We're going to add, skateboarding classes.
Yep.
And is that something you're interested in doing?
Right.
And we can say yep or no.
Or we might say no the first year and just see how it subscribes, right?
Yeah.
If it fills out like any other sport and it's widely popular, then you decide you want to get behind it. But going into 2018 might be everything that's on this piece of paper is the only thing you're going to do.
Yeah, that could
And
be.
I guess that's
I guess
that would be my last recommendation to council that we should deliver to them. Is one of the issues with this thing is it's gotten to 3 pages and it never was 3 pages of programming.
Yeah,
So
there's some way to put, to your point, a box around it to
Yeah.
say whether it be anytime they're offering something new, they come to us, or once a year they come back and say, hey, here are all the programs you don't want. Do you want any of them
Right.
going into the next year?
Tom, you look like you got something to say.
As a recreator, this does pose an issue. All their programs, most of their programs are all registered through a program on the computer. And so somebody registers as a new user and the administrative staff claims them as a Milton resident. So then they can go in online and register for anything at the Alpharetta rate. So if you put boxes of this is and this isn't, I am not so sure the software is capable of doing that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep. So there going to be no, on the Alpharetta side of the fence, there's no
There's no way to
filter
do-
between Alpharetta and Milton.
Once you come in as one of those two.
Right. Exactly.
But shouldn't we be aligning on the programs that we would agree to subsidize, that would be part of the MOU? Meaning, regardless of the number of registrants, if we say you can go do basket weaving,
Right.
we
But
shouldn't
what-
necessarily commit
but
to a cap.
Well, no, it's right
Yeah,
here.
but what Tom is saying is that if we agree to say softball, right, because it's in there, and I go in and register for softball, their system does not allow to say I can't go register for
Tree climbing year
tree
round.
climbing, right?
But this one
Because
you can, but this one you can't.
Yeah,
Is that-
it doesn't allow to decipher through program. So once I'm in and recognized as yes, I get the in city fee or price for softball
At the time of registration.
at the time of that registration. After that, I kind of have carte blanche to everything.
That's
Oh, you're almost like your account almost has a checkbox. Like,
Yeah, that
okay, you
says
get
you're-
in
yeah,
city fees.
you're saying
Now,
Alpharetta.
I worked there 3 years ago, so that's how it was then. I think they have the same program. I've been out of it for 3 years. I don't use it now,
And
but
to some
to
extent-
my
Interesting-
knowledge, that's how it's going to work, though.
It would be our recommendation could be firm but soft, like firm saying we want to limit it to what we currently have, and if Alpharetta wants to offer something else, then that's for your staff to figure out how you guys are going to do
Well,
it. Because they're going to know the 100 things they offer when they go to the 101st program. They're knowing they're offering it, and they could pick up the phone and call you and say, "Hey, 101's going to go live," and you could say, "We're never going to pay for number 101." I don't know what it is, but conceivably you could figure it out. I'm not paying for that one.
To some extent, there's, I guess, within any negotiation, there's a little bit of this. That's your problem. These are the ones we're willing to pay for if you want to stay. Right?
Yeah, if we're gonna stay on.
If our stance is really we're going to totally pull out and you'll have nothing, or we're willing to subsidize these ones, you need to figure out, meaning Alpharetta, how you're going to decipher that. It's a little bit of that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah.
Right.
I would urge, I understand what you're saying, Jason, but please keep in mind that there are technological limitations. For example, the idea that Coach Hill put out there that we identify all the kids who would be going to Alpharetta High School.
Right, high school
That's, it sounds great, but if you're trying to dig a hole and you only have a rake, it's nearly impossible with what you're with the tools you've got.
But what I'm it kind of brings back to the idea that this opens their eyes that there should be more of this without parks without borders, right?
Because conceivably it could go. At some point in time it could go the other way, where we could be offering things that Alpharetta could come running into Milton to take advantage of.
Yeah,
We can
and to their
build
credit,
a BMX track.
if the idea that all of our people were to come back, right? That's a significant revenue loss to them, even if they were just collecting in-city fees.
Correct. Correct.
Right? I mean, there's dollars there before the whole additional money that we're paying that they could be,
Yes. Yep.
Perhaps rather getting wrapped up in the IT solution of it, at least conceptually, we can agree perhaps on that. Hey, these are the programs we're willing to subsidize. We can figure out on the back end how best to manage that.
I'm not going to pick on gymnastics, but gymnastics is the example that comes to mind about we got into gymnastics and had no idea, and it became a big number, bigger than we, grew faster than we expected, and we're trying to prevent the next gymnastic surprise is really essentially.
Well, I would-
But that's where I
to
think
your point-
alignment on, let's identify
Correct.
the programs that we have subsidized. It's okay if gymnastics jumps from 240 to 803. If we say we're covering gymnastics,
Right.
great. 803 Milton residents got to go do gymnastics.
I'm with you,
And
Phil.
we subsidize it. That's fine.
Let them work out the ITPs,
Let them work
but
out the-
alignment on
Mm-hmm.
the issues. So let's come back. Jim, thanks for the help in grabbing this. So let's try and identify items on this list that would, after the matched programs, would now become programs in the city of Milton. And it shouldn't be that hard. So if we start at the beginning, it's the first three, right? Aquatics could all move to.
Us, yes.
So the money that would be saved is the average non-resident fee paid by Milton, right? It's this second to last column.
Yes.
So if all these people
And that's-
from Milton,
And that's before the 1.5 multiplier.
yes, correct. So that's an important distinction. So if, so that's, I can't do the math fast enough, but
$9,500 for swimming, roughly.
what is it?
Roughly 95, I think. Close to it.
95, I'll give you that. Thank you. So that's swim pool.
Baseball's 34.
Got a math
So
quiz on.
we already did baseball, football, basketball, boys lacrosse, swim teams, swimming, tennis. So next, in the concept that we talked about last month was babysitter camp or babysitter boot camp. Where did I see that?
That's
Under specialty camps?
Instructional programs.
583,
So babysitter boot camp is
63.
63, sorry.
775.
There you
And there was one other place I thought I saw. Babysitter certification.
Yeah, it's under instructional programs.
Instruction. Oh, babysitter.
Cert course.
That is, like, gosh, I'm getting old, Jim. Babysitter cert, that's 563. Is that the number that I read there?
What are you looking at, Mr. Chairman?
Huh?
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
So I'm trying to identify, like we did for swimming, the non-resident fees. If we said these programs weren't going to be covered in the MOU.
All right, I have a calculator here. So which ones are we talking about?
So let's add up the first three pool ones.
All right.
We'll put some real numbers on that.
Okay, I read 5845.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking at the wrong one, I'm sorry. And of course, I printed it in a smaller font,
Yeah,
3560.
that's why I was 5845. We can all
350.
do math
All
together.
right, so the
with
pool
city.
comes to 9755.
9755, okay. So then we can go to babysitter certification,
All right, that's,
563.
all right. Aerobics, art, youth classes, you said we're good with that. Babysitter certification is the first one you want to look at?
Yeah,
Okay, hold on.
so that's 563, and then there was a babysitter boot camp.
Okay,
It was 775.
what about the dance? Why don't we just run down the list and you tell me which ones you guys think you would like to potentially ask
Well,
us to find a way to provide?
So I'm just going off our notes. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I left dance alone. We left gymnastics alone because we really don't have facilities for them. I think that was the
Yep.
That was right.
short versus later. So when we got down, we're really grabbed like the babysitter camp.
Climbing.
Cheerleading came up as a discussion. Intro to cheerleading, I think this is what this was.
Okay,
Yoga and
okay, I see gymnastics, I see karate, and then I see open gym visits.
Tom, what's open gym visits?
That's when you just show up and start playing basketball.
There is a pass you can get that allows you to go to open gym.
Open gym? Do
Or
we
you,
have,
can, or you can pay daily.
but we don't have enough gym space for open gym, do we?
We don't have
So
a gym.
I didn't think so. So there was this gymnastics
That's outdoor.
cheerleading camp.
All right, you're kind of jumping all over.
I know I am.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Did you want to go through the instructional programs and complete that column?
Yeah, we can. There's only one, unless somebody else saw another one. The only one that I got is babysitter certification that we would take on.
Tree climbing, you want to leave in? Okay.
We got a nice tree ordinance, but
Yoga, okay.
so interesting that tennis lessons listed here would fall out because now they're co-offered, so that wouldn't be a savings. Yes, it would, because we wouldn't pay those. Which would take, it's interesting,
All right, so
What is instructional sport?
196 Milton folks.
Sports takes.
122.
Individual sports for classes. Sport types is like
$3,400. Instructional sport.
speak into the microphone, please.
So I'm going down your list of instructional stuff, Jim, and I'm above tree climbing and I'm in tennis. So we've got a tennis provider we want to fill, which is full. And we got 196 residents playing tennis in Alpharetta. So if we took tennis in this path of the co-offered programs, these people get no out-of-city fee.
We have courts that we could potentially overflow to at Hopewell Middle School.
They need to be redone. Or, well, no, the new ones that are off of Cogburn are nice,
Right,
but the other
yeah.
ones, yeah.
They
Oh,
need,
yeah,
a,
the other
they need a
The other
little
ones are
tune-up.
gone.
Yeah, they're done.
They just need a tune-up.
No, those courts are nice. They're
new
new.
ones.
They're across the street from the school.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the new ones. Oh, that's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Okay. So if tennis came out, that is $39.20.
Okay.
That is new money. Right? And took care of babysitting, instructional, the rest of these sport tykes, tree climbing, sports year-round is all gym stuff, yoga, that's all inside stuff that we're limited in space. Now we're into specialty camps. I think we leave dance alone. Gymnastics cheerleading camp, that was one that we talked around last month as something that we could aspire to offer.
We would need a gym.
Yeah, it's a gym situation.
Okay, so then we don't put gymnastics cheerleading in.
If that is offered in the summer, we could probably get gym space, though.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be not the winter-based one,
Yeah,
but
well, gymnastics is, you gotta have gymnastics, you have to have gymnastics equipment,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
right? So you're not,
It's not just.
That's true.
just not just getting a basketball gym.
That's true. That's true.
Balance
Yeah.
beam.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, my memory is failing me. Did we agree at the last meeting that a program that we would subsidize is our gymnastics, dance, and art youth classes?
I don't remember talking about those.
And the reason I ask, those are the
Yeah.
largest increases, the top drivers of registration fees. And I again, apologize, I don't recall. I just failed to remember what we gained alignment on in terms of programs that we would support. I know we came up with a short list of
What we
babysitting,
should, yep.
CPR, and all things like that. I just don't recall gymnastics and dance and art.
No, I think the thought was they would, if, I don't remember, since we didn't vote, we were just having open discussion. So thoughts that I had would be that gymnastics, that people want to take advantage of it now, Alpharetta, and we're going to have an MOU that's going to have some monies going back and forth to provide for it, that they could have it. We'd be achieving some savings in some other places, and we wouldn't be trying to narrow down the offerings at the moment.
And just for a second.
Because that gets into the father-daughter dance, and now you're into a bunch of other things that are on here that are, I'm just saying, you know what, if people are participating in them now, rather than upset that balance, that we would leave that part of it alone, and we would just fix the bigger chunks of what we have, what we can fill that we have, which is where we were going. And I'd leave art and gymnastics, but I wouldn't want to go to the next generation of, that was kind of our last comment about putting a box around this list for them to figure out.
And just for
scuba diving isn't not the next class I want to see, or not to pick on scuba divers, but
maybe just from a simplicity standpoint, right? I mean, our recommendation to council is that first and foremost, if something can't be negotiated, we're okay.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Our thought is that one is the multiplier has to go. Right, and that should be a non-starter on our side. If that's the only thing that goes, that we may be fine with that. But if we're still looking, it would be any competing sport.
Yep.
And that gives us that 80,000, and then if you take back in the swimming, there's another 10,000 there. There's 90,000. Everything else, because if we start, well, why is we can start to rationalize for us, but somebody's going to be upset that we think karate shouldn't be included, but gymnastics is, right?
Correct.
So it's a pretty safe place in that we offer this in our community.
Yep.
And we subsidize that through your taxes.
Correct.
And so, and if just those two things come back, there's $225,000 back into the city.
That's exactly.
So then, just to be clear, it's the competing programs.
Right.
Competing programs.
Number one. And then the short list of additional programs include what? Swim, did I hear?
Well, swim is now a competing program.
Anything with a pool.
Okay, so that's already in a competing
that would be.
It's a new competing
It's
program.
a new competing program.
Okay, it's competing program. So we'll capture that under competing program.
Right.
So, okay.
Swim, pool.
Yep. So any of the pool type things. Tennis now comes back.
Tennis, competing program.
Yep.
Correct.
Right. So then what you had mentioned earlier, Mr. Chairman, is the new programs.
Well, and that's the third, that would kind of be the third caveat I think that we would put on this, is that we want to
What was
be
the
able-
second caveat?
So the first is that the,
Protect the seniors.
right, protect the seniors, but the multiplier.
Multiplier.
Right? The
Competing programs.
competing
and
programs.
now new programs.
And then, yes, there's some type of box put into this that we would have some right of refusal ability if something new came in.
I mean, can you put something in the language that just says all programs that, you look at the last previous year, and if something comes in the middle of the year, it's not paid for until the following year, and we can refuse it going forward.
exactly.
And again, I think that's exactly how I think it would get written, Sean Michael. But I think our recommendation is going to be as simple as
Put a box on.
Put a box around the new program. Then the negotiating team that takes it can get into the language. That'll be up to council designee and Jim and Steve to go manage. So we're just giving them a broad stroke, and that's why I think you guys are right on the right path there, which is a box around what we have. We'll talk with them about what that means, and then they can understand how they want it. But I think we've gotten really close, because so we're at multiplier, seniors, competing programs, alignment on new programs.
Maybe I'm missing something there.
Last item would be direct savings to a capital fund.
Correct. That would be the fifth.
Directional, rather than just save money. So
Not
that's
just-
about 5 items that kind of
Encapsulates where, this should head when they go into a negotiation and when we think there.
Is there any, Jim grabbed it for us. Is there anything else we missed? So we got swimming pool for about 9,700. We got tennis for about 3,900. I'm just trying to get some rough numbers around additional savings that.
No, I think what this does do is it gives us some areas that we potentially could start targeting to try and start some programming of our own. And then in future years, we can expand our offerings and potentially add more to the list of what is not covered. But I think you're in a very logical and safe position with where you guys are at with those 5 initiatives that you've just talked about.
Yep. Okay. So
Not that my vote counts, but
no. That's
I mean,
And that's the fair point, is that as we see need and have facilities for, right, we can say, oh, yeah, we could actually do facilities and resources. We could do a babysitting class in here, and this is how we would do it.
Yeah, you could do it
And
here
we
in
set it up,
in the
and then
community
that becomes a
center,
competing
at the
program and
Bethwell.
comes off the list, right? And if we so decide to offer tree climbing or,
We've had yoga before at one time.
yeah, there's some clear options. You
Music.
could do great
So
yoga
there's-
right there.
So that's just a stipulation within the MOU that if we create a new program that
Yeah.
competes. Yeah,
That would come out as well.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think the language, Sean Michael, gets into hold in the current year, evaluate, and then you can
Yeah.
decide if you're rolling it into the box in the next year. So the first people that sign up don't get the benefit, and enough sign up, then
Yep.
good for them.
And that's, I think, a fairly straightforward discussion with the council around here are 5 things that we think are going
Into
going into a negotiation. Here are the 5 things that we really
1,
want.
2, 3,
Mr.
4,
Chairman?
5. So
could I make a suggestion that you might want to codify that in the form of a motion and a vote?
yeah, that's where I was going. So we've got 5 items. I can repeat them. Multiplier, protecting seniors, removing the multiplier, protecting seniors, removing competing programs as well as those newer competing programs, swim pool and tennis. Alignment on new programs, something that holds the box of what we're currently paying for. And then lastly, savings directed to the capital fund, and we could roll up for the workshop with them.
Yeah.
Some buttons up numbers of what this means for them to give them the $200 and some $1,000 picture. I think that's a good recommendation for where we're at with the idea of a plan B if we need to ever go there. So if we're in agreement on those 5 items, I would accept the motion on our 5 recommendations to the council.
I make a motion to take.
Speak slowly.
I make a recommendation. Do you need the recommendations? The 5 items?
I can reread the 5 for you.
I make. Got it. I make a recommendation to take the 5 items regarding the MOU to the council.
I'll second.
Second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great work.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Gentlemen, good job. Good job. This is a complicated issue, and you have taken a lot of time, and you've been very deliberate on this. Thank you.
Well, and I think
Council will appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and so I don't know that we need a capacity plan discussion at the moment, unless you kind of fix the commission structure.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't include. We didn't include that in our. That's item 6 in our 5-point plan.
Well, no, the MOU.
Well, I think that's a separate.
Commission structure is a different issue.
Let's keep it separate.
Yes.
Separate
Okay.
issue.
So let's come back. Well, let's take that right now. Commission structure. We've talked around it and about it.
I mean, for just since we just.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
I was just going to say, I know we discussed, I don't know if anybody else had heard about it, but with the suggestion I had with the commission structure was, I know we were looking at, the flat fee for tennis was too high or something. Like a lesser of, you say you're a lesser of $25 or 15% with a minimum fee of $10. So somewhere in between you're going to fall. If tennis is $10, it's $10, right? Or if, with the Steelers, I don't know how that worked, but it would be back to $10 at the minimum. And then for the higher price programs, it would be at $25 and they wouldn't go any higher. So it would just kind of balance out. So nobody feels like they're getting an exorbitant cost on it, but at the same time, there's still some kind of a structure, but it's only a $15 kind of swing.
If I can, just as a reminder, the whole context, if you go back about 3 or 4 meetings, what Mr. Krokoff was looking for was some type of commission structure that potentially encouraged a facility user to be thrifty on their facility use.
Correct.
All right? From there came the discussion of, what is fair, okay? If you have a program that charges $300 and another program that charges $100 at a 15% flat commission, one program is paying 15, another one's paying 45. But then we also got into the discussion of the actual touches, usages on the field. I've completed some recent analysis, and the 2 biggest programs in the city right now, and we want to guess?
Tennis?
No? Baseball and basketball. Mm-hmm. And each of them are 2-touch programs, 2-touch programs. You get a practice and a game.
And then you've got the complicating factor that some people roll uniforms into the registration fees and some people separate uniforms for the registration fees. And you're charging the commission structure on the registration fee, not on the uniform fee.
And then the second part that I think always gets to me is that, for example, baseball is getting shortchanged because they're getting 2 touches to the field for their registration fee, where lacrosse is getting 3 touches to a field.
And football as much as 4 to 5.
And football 4 to 5. And I'm not overly involved in baseball, but my guess is that if they could get 3 touches to the field a week, they would love it.
Yes.
Right?
So
Yes.
the challenge,
And the same with basketball.
and I threw it out at the end, is to use the $67,000 as an incentive pool to encourage efficiency in the use of your field. Like, if you use 90% of your assigned practices, you could keep your money, or you would pay your money if you didn't notify the city. I'm just not sure, back to Tom's point, that we have a tight enough system of monitoring, scheduling, and actual usage of the field to do the metric. I think it makes sense. It's the right direction.
You just fly a drone over the field?
It's the right directional idea, but I don't think we're there on a sophistication standpoint.
I'll give you an example. Last week, we found out Thursday evening that the Milton Steelers had a schedule change and they were going to be open for a game. And so Friday, I reached out to lacrosse and they said, it's nice, but it's too late to get the word out to everybody.
Yeah, there's a shelf life to that opening.
Yeah, right.
So I think we still got some work. There's an opportunity for us to continue this discussion, but I don't think we're going to fix Steve's concern about efficiency and scheduling.
This is his
On grass
selling the
fields,
ring time.
different than ice time.
Yeah.
Then this might be your recommendation to council.
Say that again.
That might be your recommendation. We don't have an answer here.
Yeah. So I would be very comfortable with a recommendation that we make commissions go away until such time we figure out how to be more efficient in our scheduling.
And it may be a matter of benchmarking against other communities of similar size and program levels like we do. Obviously, we can't come up with the answer to your point, Mr. Chairman. I don't think we have the sophistication. I mean, the commission, if you wanted to drive a behavior, right, once they pay us the registration fee, it's a sunk cost to them anyway. So there is no behavioral change, I think, that will come after they already pay. Yeah. Right? So unless we have the sophistication in place to manage a per use fee.
Per day, per week, per month,
use,
whatever.
Yep. But perhaps until then, we look at some external benchmarking against other cities to see how they manage that behavior outside of just a flat commission rate.
That almost sounds like a recommendation, Phil.
It does.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion to eliminate commission fees for the next round of programming events, while simultaneously we ask
2019, yeah.
for 2019, and simultaneously ask for staff's assistance in benchmarking against other communities, cities of similar size, to see how they drive behavior to maximize field usage.
Well, I second that.
Motion by Phil, second by Dave. All in favor for work that we don't have to do? Aye. Any opposed? So carried. That's awesome. Thanks, Phil. More work for Jim and Tom and that half FTE they're getting. That's awesome. Parks Department's and goals we've got. We just got to make sure we communicate those better to partners and council. We'll make sure that we deliver that at their joint meeting. Capacity planning.
I think that covers part of what Phil has said here.
Yep,
in terms
that
of,
feeds into the go see what other people are doing. Okay, I think we covered all unfinished business, Jim.
Okay.
Under new business, change of liaison representation. I think the item here was to appoint Sean Michael as the Hopewell designee. Was that not it?
Yes.
Correct. So I guess I would make a motion to appoint Sean Michael Janssen.
Have a discussion and explain the context behind this.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So since Sean Michael's got children participating in the program, he's a capable eyes and ears of being a good liaison to Hopewell Youth Association. Nothing against Dave and the work that he's done and his contacts with Juan over the year, but chance for Sean Michael to get involved in another new role in the Parks and Rec Board was the thought process behind making a change in liaison. He seemed willing and interested, and I think he still is.
Yeah.
So if that's
That'd be great.
if that's good with everybody else, I'd make a motion to appoint Sean Michael to the Hopewell liaison.
I'll second it.
Second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Sean Michael. That's an awesome role to take on, and we'll
Sean Michael, I would encourage you to reach out to Juan at your earliest opportunity and let him know about the change.
I'll text him right now.
There is actually no texting allowed during the meeting, by the way, but I did receive a text. Coach Hill contacted me. Sorry, can't be here. The JV game ran late, but he sends his greetings.
no problem. And I'll drop him a note for you. We'll tell him.
Who seconded that one?
Jason. Item number 9, city staff reports and communications.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, please refresh my memory. You had sent me an email about a couple things you wanted to talk. You wanted me
One
to
was
address.
adult. Ron's not here to remind us. One was adult male or adult flag football.
I can tell you with adult flag football, we have heard nothing from the Milton Steelers about that program.
Yeah,
Nothing. Okay.
That was brought up as another opportunity, and we're saving them field space, are we not?
Yes.
Okay.
So nothing to report on
Okay.
adult flag. And then the other was the Milton Trail Plan. I know there was some
Yeah.
communication about
Yes.
it. Public communication about it somewhere.
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman. On October 9th, which is a Wednesday, October 9th is a Wednesday, I believe. Can I confirm that real fast?
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Tuesday, I'm
Yep.
sure.
That's why I have people smarter than me. Okay. October 9th there's going to be a meeting here in which the invitees, it's an open public meeting, but it's specifically inviting the neighbors who live in the vicinity of the Milton Country Club, the former Milton Country Club, which is now the official name, the former Milton Country Club, TFMCC. All right.
Country Club, formerly known.
So yes, formerly known as Prince. Yes.
Formerly known as Milton Country Club.
Then on the 10th, there will be another meeting, and these meetings are being guided by Kimley Horn, in which they're specifically targeting invitation to specific groups, as well as the open public to come and talk.
Right.
And I'm using this forum to invite you all on Wednesday the 10th, 6 o'clock here, in your capacity as a Parks and Rec board member, to be engaged and talk about the Milton, the property formerly known as the Milton Country Club. So I would hope that you guys can come out. They're inviting some of the other groups, the Milton Disability Awareness Committee, the Equestrian Committee. So we're trying to get engagement here on potential uses for the property. There's 139 acres there. 7 are currently defined as active. 132 are currently defined as passive. I do know that our friends from the Lauren Holmes, why am I drawing a blank? Children's Charities, they intend to come out on that day and make a pitch to try and get the playground put there. I know that you will have the Milton swim team coming out that day, as well as probably the day before. So, because a lot of them live in the area, so it's going to be it's a great opportunity for us to talk about this huge piece of land that's in the middle of the city of Milton, and what we can do with it. And it is part of a much larger trail plan that the city is working on right now. And I have to tell you, it's very exciting. We have plans that we hope to be able to unveil soon of a trail 14 miles long.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It eventually will happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This is yes.
They've gotten the federal funds.
Yeah.
Good. There are meetings after those too, right? There's a couple other
There
meetings.
will still be, workshops and council meetings, things like that. Council workshop, things like that. But, October 9 and October 10, especially the 10th, those are critical for what we're doing here. And it's our chance to have input what's going on here.
6 here. Yep. If I don't get jury duty, I'll be there. Okay. Anything else in the city staff reports and communications?
Yes, I do want to let you know that the FY19 budget has been approved. And there's some very exciting things in there. There is funding in there to partially fund a lacrosse wall at Bell Memorial Park. And we're already in discussion with a designer to help us learn how to make the bid specs for this. And I would like to thank Mr. Alberici. Jason, is it Alberici or Alberici?
Here in the U.S., we go the Alberici, the softer C, but we do call. I respond to either.
What do you call yourself?
Alberici.
Alberici. Okay. I would like to call out Mr. Alberici, who's definitely been helping me with contacts over in Cambridge. Much appreciated. I don't have a lot of contacts there. I have discovered that an old friend is involved in Cambridge. Holmes Hawkins. Do you remember Holmes? That goes way back. So we are looking at some opportunities to do another IGA field. We have in the budget the ability to fund $900,000 to turf a field, put up lights, and fully make use of it. And we're now going to be in a search of what's the ideal location. There are 2 locations that are distinct possibilities that the city is looking at. We did get approved the funding to lease the field from the Birmingham United Methodist Church. Unfortunately, we are having a contractual issue with BUMC. So if any of you are members of the Birmingham United Methodist Church, please tell me. So that's been approved. Also very exciting, we will be expanding. We have funding to hire a part-time employee, which the most exciting part of that, of course, is that this year's Secret Santa will finally have some real suspense to it. It just hasn't been working for Tom and me for the last couple of years. All right? But no, in all seriousness, we're very excited about this, and we're looking to see if we can get someone in here to give us some help in a part-time role. We already have funding in place to buy 4 new basketball goals, so we will be able to outfit Summit Hill and Clyburn? Yeah, because we did Crabapple and Birmingham Falls. Summit Hill has agreed to come on board with us. There's a new principal there, and after years of being told no, there's a new principal there who, she and I go way back. I used to coach her kid in baseball back at Hopewell. And so Lori Bearden, Dr. Lori Bearden has welcomed us with open arms. And I also would like to report that the relationship with Fulton County School Board, I admit I have been critical of it in the past. They had a personnel change about a year or so ago, and this gentleman told me he committed that he will make it better, and he is living to his word. It's been a good relationship. And yes, I used to coach his kid when his kid, Craig Boyajian, was 8 years old. So
No stone left unturned.
it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny how the connections keep coming back. But no, things are looking very, very favorable.
Great. Anything else that we need to know?
It's all good
Nothing I
stuff.
can think of. Our next meeting is October 18, and hopefully we can use that to firm up any other questions and stuff that comes up. We might want to. Do you want me? If I understand correctly, we've come to a conclusion on the MOU.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The department goals.
Yep, you've already covered that. We just need to make sure we communicate it to all the council.
Okay. Capacity planning.
We're going to pause that into Phil's motion with the commission structure.
Okay. And okay. Well, then it looks like the next meeting could be fairly light.
Could be.
Yeah. That's all I got, gentlemen.
All I got.
Thank you, Jim.
Tom, Jim, thanks. Nothing else. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Jason, motion. Second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Okay.
Thank you all.
If you'll give me a minute, I will reset the microphones and turn them off. And
Blue buttons, I'll be a reminder for you.